This is not the internet. This is the metaverse. Hello, pioneers. This week I'm going to take a look at how do we onboard the rest of the world onto crypto, right? Because there's still a long way to go for us to receive mainstream adoption. So you can see these numbers are pretty good, throughout the world of how many people are into crypto, right? But when you narrow it down, it's still only 4.2% of the population, right? So we've still got a long way to go here. Now, we've seen things like this pop up about microtasking, okay? So when we have a really big problem, it's too hard to tackle it all at once. So we make these things into microtasks, okay? So we can better manage it. Okay, so, and this stems from like an ITIL process, which is an IT process where when a problem, say you've got too many tickets, that you can't really handle all the time, you manage it into microtasks so that even though the end goal might not be achievable, you can still move forward towards the end of that goal, okay? So how do we do this in crypto, right? So initially, right, we actually had to release a crypto, right? So out came Bitcoin. And Bitcoin needed to be decentralized, right? So it made all this network of nodes, right? So that if one computer went down, it didn't take the whole network with it, okay? Now to grow these nodes, right, they brought in a mechanism called mining, right? So that we could bring on more people running nodes and therefore they would be rewarded with Bitcoins. And this limitation was put to 21 million of Bitcoin, right? So that you didn't get unfettered inflation. And this caused the price to raise over time, right? So all these early miners got rewarded, right? Now, this has its limitations, obviously, doesn't it? Because now getting into Bitcoin is much a harder task. And even the mining to start with, you needed quite a large technical knowledge, okay? So then you go on to phase 2, right? So you move on to something else, and along comes Pi Network. And with these guys, right, they put the mining on the phone, okay? So that anybody could run it, everyone's got phones, right? Very, very easy to do, right? Now we have build up a network, right, through referrals, and these networks are rewarded through having boosters and some rewards, okay? So you've got another reward system, right? So this is bringing people on through this. Now, this grew the network quite well. We've had 100 million plus downloads, 60 million are active. We're in 200 countries, and we have 400,000 nodes. Now, compared to all the other cryptocurrencies out there, this makes Pi number one by a long margin, right? Because no one else has got anywhere near these types of numbers, okay? But still, there's still this 4.2% of the population that hasn't come on board yet, okay? So we need some more tasks to bring these on board. Now, another way we can make it a bit easier, right, is through bringing some fiat gateways, right, so that people can just easily buy crypto, right, make it a lot easier. So Pi's come out with this new button recently, okay, so now you can buy fiat through this and using Banxa, okay, and quite a few payment rails here, okay. So this is a good way of bringing, onboarding people to crypto, all right, and this makes things a lot easier. Now with Pi Network, they've released their venture fund for $100 million to help with onboarding. As you know, I've applied for it, right? And this is obviously a very helpful tool to bring on applications, okay? But within the market of crypto, there's still this lack of knowledge in the general population about crypto wallets, crypto keys, and passphrases. This is all still very complicated. And but now we can introduce things like biometrics, okay? So instead of having passphrases and having to manage keys and all that, we can use biometrics. And as I've shown you before with the upgraded protocol 21, we get things like pass keys and smart wallets, right? and these will handle all that a lot more easier. So you don't have to be carrying around 24 seed phrases. Okay. Now, gaming's been identified as another way of onboarding, the world into crypto, right? And for good reason, isn't it? Right. So they've said that gaming is a key vertical, and it stands out as a high potential category, right? Because most people have played games in their life, and it's a very big way of onboarding people and educating people as well. Now, I did a video previously and I showed you about, how all these games are out there. They, a lot of these have their own in-house currencies, right? So they're getting used to digital currencies. Some of the games already are a cryptocurrency, right? And also some are actually showing you virtual jobs, right? So you get paid for doing contracts. Now, there's still a generation, right, of like the boomers, okay? Now, these guys, they're still doing okay, but they're, even after 30 years of computers, they still struggle with some of those online tasks, don't they, right? So this is going to be a hard generation to sort of onboard into cryptocurrencies. Gen X becomes a lot easier though, right? Because Gen X, someone like me, I was 10 years old when I started playing Space Invaders, okay, when it first came out, right? So Gen X is the original gamers, right? And as things progressed on, we got games like Scramble and Galaga, Burnin' Rubber and Pac-Man, just to sort of go back through history there. And, so gaming is sort of infused into the later generations, right? And obviously the millennials, Gen Z and Gen Alpha, they're not going to have any problems with gaming at all, right? So through gaming, right, which is what we're seeing a lot of emphasis on, right, we can educate people more about crypto, how to use wallets, how to use digital currencies, and onboard the new generation. Now, as you know, I love looking at Stellar to try and see what the future of Pi will be, okay? And one of the projects over there is called Dogstar, okay, right? And this is a peer-to-peer exchange, right? Has all the usual functions over there, but they also have this thing called the Dogstar League, okay, right? And this is where they're introducing gamification into doing trading, right? But it's really a way of onboarding you and educating you, right, without having any worries about losing money, because this operates a thing called zero loss, okay? So through zero loss, you're able to, they give you a bag of crypto. It's not real crypto, it's just virtual. And you can trade for the month in a competition, and the top guys at the end of the month get rewarded with real crypto, okay? So through this gamification type thing, you can see that we can bring people on board into scary things that they wouldn't normally do. But when you introduce this zero loss, people are willing to try things, okay? So this is what I'm trying to show you about the gamification of things and games, how important it's going to be. I watch Tyler a lot. Now, with Tyler, he introduced this thing called Kale, okay, right? It's a mining, farming mechanism, right, that you can run. Still out there working if you want to try it. You get free tokens, okay, for Kale. And since he's released this is extended into a lot more things, and this is just going to keep on growing, okay? Right, but again, you can see with the guys at Lightmint, they have a game called Cyber Brawl, right? And again, this is a crypto game, okay? It's only in alpha, right? But they're using Kale as the main currency to onboard users into this, okay? So this is another way of gaming and getting used to cryptocurrencies, okay? Now, Tyler released this blog post, well, this X post just the other day, and he's talking about how he had this idea for AI-generated games, okay? So it's gaming again, okay? And this is where they're going to use these vaults to accumulate fees and all that, and then reward the players, okay? Now, the fees would come from the players coming in and all of that, but again, this is a zero loss game, okay? So they're doing this zero loss stuff again. So even though you're putting your crypto in there, you see it just like with our staking on Pi with the the applications that we can do for visibility, right? You can stake your cryptocurrencies, right, or use your cryptocurrencies, but you still hold them, right, and you don't actually lose them through gameplay, okay? Now, a day later, a guy called Bastian, right, which is well known in the Stellar community, he introduced something called Trustfall, okay? Trustfall, sorry. And Trustfall, right, is going to be an AI-generated game, okay? So Bastian, right, now he's associated with Hoops Finance, okay? Hoops Finance is another sort of pooling application, okay? So you get rewards through that. And this is the game, right? Trustfall, okay? So if you go onto the site and check it out yourself, right, it's not quite open yet, but the law's out there. They've got quite a number of screens that you can filter through, and you can see just in a day how quickly he generated this game, right? Now, again, this is going to be a lossless game, right? So that you use your cash and all that, but your crypto, but yeah, it's going to be about, you know, bringing people onto crypto again, okay? So this is another avenue to get people onboarded through these games. So you can see how big gaming is going to be in onboarding the rest of the world into crypto, right? It's in your games already. Pi Networks making an emphasis on gaming, the Stellar Networks making an emphasis on gaming, okay? So this is really, really great, okay? Now, to further go on with this, you know, back in 6th of February 2022, you know, Woody and I had our first spaces that Woody hosted. It was really great, and we talked about the metaverse, okay? And in this, I was telling everyone how you wouldn't be using keyboards and mice, you know, how your usual peripherals and all that would all be going away, right? And there's people already predicting that by the time 2030 comes around, iPhones won't be here, okay? Right? Or any smartphone, okay? So that's really, really interesting. Now, I've also went on to discuss, you know, about VR, and I've also said in many videos that I've done, right? This is not the final form, right? Now, we know this has all got problems with VR and all that through motion sicknesses and all that type of thing, right? But I've always said that the device is going to end up something more like this, okay? This is going to be the type of device that will be the next interface, you know, into the internet, okay? So the guy, Sam over at OpenAI, right, they recently just purchased Johnny Ive's company, IO, okay? And Johnny's been working on this new device, okay? So there's a new device will allow consumers to connect with AI in very new ways, as Altman suggested, and be totally new kind of thing, okay? So there's something new coming, right? And they're slating this for 2026, okay? Excited to try and create a new generation of AI-powered computers, okay? So this new device is coming, and it's coming very, very, very soon, right? And this is what I've been saying, how, you know, you're going to be getting rid of all your phones and all that. It's not going to be the interface of the internet coming up. And within that interface is going to be the metaverse, okay? And the metaverse is going to be the greatest game that you will ever see. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you later.